Well, good morning, I guess. It is Tuesday, December 22nd, 2022, and we're starting to wrap up the year. And, I guess it could have been a worse year. Um, my father's health was pretty good. We had a little rocky start. He fell, or he was dizzy and stumbled a little bit at the beginning of the year and wanted to go to the hospital because he was 81 then, and his health has been kind of flaky at different points, and he just got worried that maybe he was having a stroke. And we took him to the emergency room. They couldn't find anything wrong with him. Said maybe it was his inner ear, maybe it was some of his medications. They dialed back on some of the stuff he was taking. He's been okay since then. Superstitious, knock on wood. He has done well so far. He's had a few down days, but he hasn't been in a hospital, which is good because not the year of the Rona, but in 2021, he had several hospital visits. He had several scares and several significant issues that warranted a hospital visit. So it's been a good year for that. It's been a good year for, well, just things around the house. We've not had any major catastrophes. We've been able to get by. He's worked. We were able to ride the wave of inflation fairly well with some, strategic shopping and canning and food preparation and preservation and stuff. So we're doing all right there. I had the two skin cancers removed. That's the one you can see. It's my glasses irritated. My CPAP mask irritates it, so it's kind of red today. I think there's still a small piece of stitch in there because they used dissolvable ones, and my skin, when they at the point where there's a knot in the stitches, usually won't dissolve all of it, and it'll start kind of forcing it out, like a foreign object, which it is. And then it takes a little while, but I'm kind of concerned that it's still this red and irritated uh, without this long. It shouldn't be that bad. My shoulder is looking really well. It's still kind of funky. You know how new incisions, as they're healing, they're still kind of pinkish red, and then it kind of fades away. So it's still not real pleasant to look at, but it's healing very nicely. All the stitches are out of it, as far as I can tell. This is the only one that's bothered me, and I think it's probably a combination of the glasses, which I've not been wearing as much around the house, but I have to wear them to drive because my distance vision is not very good, and the stigmatism I have, uh, I can get away with driving in the daytime. I absolutely cannot drive at night with the stigmatism that I have and the distance vision issues that I have. So I think that's a little bit of it, a combination of it. I'm going to start the podcast audio here in just a minute. I have asked on my Facebook for ideas of people you may want to hear from, like people, uh, interview topics, or people that, I mean, it can't be gigantic names because there's no way I'd ever get somebody like, I don't know, um, Glenn Beck. It's the only name that came to my mind. Or, well, that's the only one I can think of. Isn't that terrible? I listened to more than that, but it's the only one that came to mind this morning. I'm still pretty sleepy. But anyway, the national names, it's unlikely that I would get someone with a national following like that. But if you saw my Toolman Tim and Becky interview, or you saw my interview with Lisa, I'd like to do more of those, maybe one a month, maybe two a month. I don't know. I probably should have scheduled those two out a little further, but my timing is usually off a little bit anyway. So the dates and times that they were available are what they are, and they were pretty close together. So, but I enjoyed doing that. I'd like to do it again. I've asked a couple of people, but they've either forgotten or they just don't want to say no, so they just ignore it. I may reach out to them again. One of them is a radio guy here in the state that immigrated from another country. I'd love to have him on. There's a couple of the YouTube people I'd like to chat with, and a couple of Fountain FM people I'd like to chat with, but I'll reach out to them. I kind of don't think that they'll stoop to my level of beginner. So, but it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst they can do is say no. But if there's somebody or a topic, so a friend of mine said she wanted to hear more on home home canning. She has issues with siphoning, so I thought I can do that. And another friend said crocheting. She's wanted to learn to crochet. Well, I don't crochet, but I know a couple people who do, and I'm going to reach out to them to see if they're willing to come on camera and just talk about getting started with crochet and some of the problems that beginners have and things like that. So you may hear me repeat that in the podcast piece. So I didn't do this as a live, although you can't record someone dead. I mean, you can record their body, but you can't record anything they say when they're dead. That's one of my little pet peeves. I wanted to record this. I'll post it later. And part of the reason is I want to get a regular schedule of posts for this Facebook regularly so that people will know that on a certain day at a certain time, there's going to be a video up. The lives, I can't guarantee the time because if I have a guest or if I have to take dad to an appointment, I cannot guarantee that time. So there are people who have Monday night lives and Wednesday lives and Friday lives and weekend lives and stuff like that. And they're regular and they're routine and they are, I'll say committed. It's not that I wouldn't be committed, but they're committed to that time and that day of the week. I can be committed to Tuesdays at 10 and mean every bit of it. And then dad gets sick or, we have a guest and they haven't left by 10 and I'm struggling with that. So if I have a guest here in the house, I've got to deal with that. I've got to deal with that. I can't put that off. So I'm still kind of debating on the best day and time for that, whether they would, maybe I could do pre-recorded ones and then have special live. I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to hear from you guys. I'd like to hear from you guys what you think. I know there's only half a dozen of you, but I still would like to hear from you. So I'm going to get ready to start the podcast language now, what's the word I'm looking for? I do this all the time, grasp for words, and I know what it is. It's because I don't have enough adult interactions. I'm not out there talking to enough people to keep my vocabulary up. But the recording for the or the audio, that's the word I'm looking for, the audio for the podcast. So I'm going to have a few seconds of silence because when for those of you who've never dealt with audio, and I'm not an expert, I'm very much a beginner, but when you look at the audio sound waves the recording, if you can't tell where one thing starts and the other stops unless there's a gap, and without cutting you off and starting over and all that. So what I need to look for is a piece on the audio feed that is just a straight line, which indicates silence. And so then I can know that from that point, this way is the live video YouTube recording. And from here on, this section is both the live and the audio for the podcast. And then at the end, I'll do it again and there'll be a silence there. And then I'll know that the section here between these two lines of silence needs to be clipped for the podcast. Actually, it can work really well. If I can get into the rhythm of it, I can make this work. A lot of people do. That's how I know I can. I mean, if other people can do it, I can too for the most part. But I'm going to start that here in three, two, one. Hi, welcome to the Holstein House podcast. Oh man, has it been? Did you have a good holiday? I celebrate Christmas. And I know there's people out there that celebrate other stuff, but I celebrate Christmas. And whatever you celebrate, I hope it was happy, as long as it doesn't involve hurting other humans or animals. I don't celebrate that, and I don't encourage that. Well, I can't say fish because, well, we do eat animals. Anyway, this is Robin, and this is episode 22, 22, official 22 of the Holstein House podcast, uh, premiering on the Fountain Network, but we are now on several other networks. We're actually on Apple Podcasts now. We're on Google Podcast. Podbean is where I do my recording uh, for the podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. I guess it's music. I don't think it's Amazon Podcast. But anyway, it's Amazon. We're on Amazon and Podchaser. So that's fun. So if you listen to those, you can look for the Holstein House podcast. I probably shouldn't have put the word "the" in there, but I did. So that's how it is, the Holstein House podcast. And however you found me, if you're on Fountain, I hope you will boost and clip, and for all of the others, like and share amongst your friends, and for those of you who are into the value for value, if you find value in anything that I'm saying here today, I hope you'll share value back. So now let's get going. But before I really jump in and get really started, I want to share with you my Fountain app is still wonky. I don't know what else to do with it. I just don't. I love Fountain. I love the idea of Fountain. I don't know why the app is being such a problem on my phone. I've lost the ability to check the top Hot 50 podcasts on Fountain. I get an error message. I've lost the ability to see the interactions and uh, activities of the people I follow and who follow me back. I get an error message on it. I'm not, I, abs- I can't tell if anyone's commented unless I go through a browser on a laptop to fountain.fm to the Holstein House podcast and look there. It's just dumb. And I have reported it, and I'm really frustrated. I know they're, a relatively small company, but I just don't, this kind of feels like just dumb stuff to me that shouldn't be happening. So I'm sorry if you're not getting replies fast enough. If you think I should have, because I'm trying to mention the names of people who boost and comment and things in the podcast to share a little bit, and I don't see it. I just don't see it. I can't, and there's no way I can react to it in real time. It's gonna be late. But I'm gonna look. I do look, and I do share. So if you really feel that your comment is significant and you want me to have it in time for the next recording, then you can look me up on any of the show notes. I've got all of the links in the show notes of how you can reach me on um, other social media platforms, and reach out to me. So just everybody kind of does the same thing this time of year. They're asking about resolutions. They're asking when you're taking your tree down and your lights down, and what your plans are for the new year, and just all, stuff like that. And I mean, I'm going to do a little bit of the same. I'm interested in, when do you take your holiday decorations down? My first mother in law, it's no secret I've been married more than once. My first mother in law would have the tree put up Christmas Eve. They would get a live tree, pay the money for a live tree, put it up on Christmas Eve, decorate it all Christmas Eve, do all the Christmas Eve stuff, do all the Christmas Day stuff, and take it down Christmas Day. Pack everything back up and have it out. And she's a very immaculate. She's still with us. Well, not with me, but she's still here. She hasn't passed away. She was an immaculate housekeeper. She was. You could probably have eaten safely from the toilet seat. But and I'm not, but I just thought that was a little bit of a waste of energy to put it all up the night of Christmas Eve and then take it down Christmas Day, so it's up less than 24 hours, maybe a little bit more. But where's the enjoyment in that? I don't. I mean, I know that when she was raising her sons, she was in a very small trailer, so it could be that she just didn't have room, and that was a habit. But I don't know. Mine's going to be up till at least till after New Year's Day. Depending on the weather, it could come out of the house, and it could be packed up and out of the house and out to the building the 2nd or 3rd of January. It may end up waiting till the next weekend. It just depends on the weather, because I'm not trudging through the mud and muck with that box of stuff. I've got a lot of boxes of stuff. I have a lot of stuff I put out, and I'm not gonna no. Plus, I think you should leave the tree up. There's the whole 12 days of Thanksgiving thing. There's the Epiphany, idea. You keep the tree up till Epiphany, and I didn't get into all that because I don't put the tree and the decorations in the same category as the birth of Christ. I mean, the tree and the decorations, the lights, and all of the things like that are to me kind of like the candles and the banners at a birthday party. You know, they're not the birthday, so they're not the person celebrating the birthday. So that part doesn't matter. It's the person, and for me, it's Christ. It's Christ's birth begins the process of the the birth, the death, and the resurrection. Um, Without the birth, there can be no death, and without the death, there can be no resurrection. And without the resurrection, there is no salvation. So that's how I believe it. But the lights and trees here will stay up till at least New Year's Day. Even with guests, it'll stay up till at least New Year's Day. And then everybody talks about goals and resolutions. Oh, I'm going to, lose 50 pounds, and I'm going to go to the gym every day. How do you plan for the coming year? And time is a construct of man, as far as the creation of the days of the weeks and the weeks of the year and the years and the decades and those things. Time is real. It is there. There's daylight and dark, and daylight and dark, and the passage of time, and things are born, things die, and things grow, and things die. And so time is real. The measurement of time, the way we do it, is human creation. But we have for a long time, I don't know ancient history enough to know whether they celebrated a new year like we do. But we have decided that January 1st is the beginning of a new year in the Western cultures. And so we've put a lot of pressure on ourselves to begin something new and change old things. So people who want to quit smoking, people who want to lose weight, people who want to eat better, go to any gym and talk to them about membership. And they'll tell you before the end of January, most people who bought new memberships aren't coming back. probably about a third of the people will continue. I know it was that way. I went through Weight Watchers years ago, at least 10. Let's see, was it since then? 12, I think. Around 12 years ago, I was going. And we knew that at the beginning of the year, there would be all these people at the meetings, and the meetings would be very crowded. But the same thing, by the end of January, the middle of February, 4 to 6 weeks or so, people were dropping out left and right. It took me a few years to drop out. I did real well with Weight Watchers for a long time, but then I just got bored with it, and I do that. I get bored with stuff fairly easy. A couple years is about all I can do, so I get into a new habit like this. A couple years of it, I'm tired. Now the YouTube, the thing with the YouTube is that I've been trying at it, hitting a little, hitting a little, hitting a little, and I really haven't been able to pick up steam. You know how some people kind of pick up steam pretty quickly. And I wonder whether it's my delivery, if whether it's my recordings, whether it's the topics, or whether I'm just not, you know, made for YouTube. Face for radio, they say. That might be it. For the coming year, there's a few things that I know that I need to work on. I haven't set hard and fast target dates yet. I do need to do that. Some things are out of my control, but I need to just go ahead and set these dates, get that building done. And I have kind of started it. I got some stuff out of it a couple weeks ago, and then the weather came. And I just kind of threw my hands up thinking, it'll be spring before I get that done. Then it dawned on me, you big dummy, you have a kerosene heater in the basement. And I have the kerosene heater in the basement, and I have kerosene, and I have it because what happens if the electric goes off here? Well, duh, there's no electric out there in the building. And I could take that kerosene heater and I could take it out in the building, and it's going to get exercised because I'm going to use it. I haven't actually used it in years. And I can warm up. The rooms aren't very big. It wouldn't take much to warm up the rooms. If you took the walls down, there's some houses that their bathrooms are bigger than that little building. So I thought, why aren't you doing that? Well, duh, I haven't. I'm going to do that. I'm going to uh, after I get my tax stuff done, because I have this week. I've got end of year tax stuff to get done. So I'm not going to do it this week, but next week, starting next week, first of the year, I'm going to take. I could get the heater out before next week, and that's fine too. But next week, I'm going to have the heater out there. I'm going to start trying to work on getting that cleared out so that I can move stuff around. There's so much stuff in there it's still usable. It's still good. We wanted to try to sell it. I've tried to sell some of it at yard sales. I hate yard sales. I hate working yard sales. I don't mind going to them, but I hate holding a yard sale. It's just so much stress and so much aggravation, and so few people that live within yard sale distance here want what I have, and people aren't going to pay to ship it. So I can do that. I probably will do that. I'll set it down. I'll take the heater, the kerosene heater out there. I'll clear out a area around it so that it, I don't have to worry about anything touching it, and that will heat the area. I'll start that up after I'll get the birds up on days that I'm going to work on it, on that house, and try to get that stuff out. I had a friend helping me with it week before last. And then Mr. Holstein and I took a big truckload of stuff to the Salvation Army for them. So that's one goal, is to get that building cleared out, so that the second part of that particular goal is to get a new roof on. And the third part of that goal, whether it happens this year or not, I don't know, but I'd like to. The third part of that goal is to get the utilities repaired and back on, the electric, the plumbing. I would like to have it back on the septic, so I don't have to worry about a sewer bill. If we have city water, though, then it's going to need a sewer bill. I'd like to work around that. I would like to work with rainwater from the roof. I think because of what I would like to try to do in the long term, bringing in drinking water or having a Berkey type of filter for drinking water would be just fine. It wouldn't be a 24/7 living arrangement. If I put it on Airbnb, it's just, it's not going to be like, I don't do long term. I don't want long term Airbnb. So these are just thoughts that I have right now. We'd have to have the electric because I wouldn't be able to put the solar in. To reach the goal, I need to have everything working soon. So it would take a long time to get the solar put in and get that figured out. And where I'm situated, I don't get enough daylight, strong enough daylight to do much with solar. I had a company do an evaluation for the house I'm in now, and between the other buildings around in the mountains and, the angles and all that stuff, it ended up that I would about break even. And I wasn't interested in breaking even. I need to be ahead, even if it's just, 10%. I need to be ahead. I'm not interested in going through all of that nightmare just to break even. So that's one. I do need to I've got my notary commission renewed. I have to get, and that's part of the year-end stuff right now that I'll have to take care of this week. I have to get my new certificate loaded back up to the companies that I was working with before, so that I'll be notified for the higher paying work. Now, I didn't have to do much to get, the small stuff, the occasional power of attorney, the occasional school trip form, and DMV paperwork and stuff like that. That's low fruit. That's low pay. You're talking a 10 maybe for those kind of things. The ones that I really do well with financially are the ones that involve real estate, and I have to get all this other stuff taken care of for that. Plus, my stamp isn't in yet. My notary stamp. Can't do anything without the stamp. I ordered it through NNA. I'm a member of NNA. My membership's still good. Haven't heard any status update on the stamp yet. So I've got to check into that this week as well. That will help offset the costs of that kind of work. The real estate work will help offset the cost of having stuff done to the little building. And but that also involves travel. So when I do that, that's going to interfere with recording these, you see. So it just ends up, pick a lane, Robin, pick a lane. But I do need to get my notary stuff redone. And along with my notary, I am registered with the state of West Virginia to perform wedding ceremonies. I kind of backed off that when I found out from the pastor of one of the churches. The pastor did the training that I took, and she was telling me that our current bishop in the United Methodist Church says that if you went through the process to be able to do that, then you are ordained in a different church and you're no longer a member of the Methodist Church. And I said, well, that can't be right. Why wouldn't it be any different than a civil service? And she said, well, if it's a civil service, you're just a judge. You're not ordained. And I'm like, So I don't really want to lose my position in the Methodist Church. So I've backed off that a little bit. And while I try to work that out, is that correct? Is it an issue? And, because one of the things I thought about doing was having elopement ceremonies. So, people who just kind of wanted to slip off and get married and maybe want to do it on the weekend, the courthouse isn't open or something, I, could do that. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. That's not a firm goal or resolution. That's kind of a floater, I guess, over here. I'd kind of like to do that. It's not a priority. Getting a schedule for these videos and my audio podcasts. Getting some more guests in. Getting a little more, I don't know, content up. Working that a little bit more. I'd like to do that too. And all of this in understanding full well that I have full time household responsibilities because that's what I do. And taking care of the husband, making sure he's got what he needs, and the dogs and the cats and the chickens and the ducks. It's not like I need anything else to do, right? So, do you have a couple of goals or resolutions? I kind of like the idea of goals better because a resolution you kind of break. If you're going to quit smoking, and your resolution is to quit smoking, so you end up quit smoking for a week, and then you start smoking again. Your resolution is over. You have to start a new one. But a goal can be flexible. It can be you can adjust the dates, and the idea is to reach it. It's not necessarily always to reach it on this date at this time. So there's that. Oh, this is a little bit of a brag. Wayne went out to visit with his mom and his aunt yesterday for Christmas, and we tend to get them flowers now because there's nothing they need. There's nothing that they want, for Christmas. There it is. I told you. It's a little off again. I don't know why, but it is a little off again. Uh, Anyways, Wayne went out to visit with his aunt and his mother, and on the way, while he was out there, he swung by a friend of his house who had just had surgery, had heart surgery, and he wasn't there because of the cold weather. He had gone to stay at his girlfriend's house, and he'd been staying with his dad, taking care of his dad until he had his surgery. So, but anyway, because the weather was going to be so bad, they wanted him down where he was closer to Charleston. But anyway, so Wayne's out there talking to Big Dave and, catching up with him a little bit. He hadn't talked to him in ages and talking to electrics and batteries and generators and stuff. And they got to talking about chickens and different breeds of chicken and food storage and a variety of things. And Wayne, was telling Big Dave that, I have a handful of chickens and maybe by next spring I'll need a few babies to, as the older ones go off to freezer camp. And they just were talking about general stuff, and they got to talking about home canning foods. And Wayne told Big Dave that he said, well, Robin didn't raise a garden. She raises a few things. And he said, but what she did, she went down to the farmer's market and bought a bushel of beans and canned those. To which Big Dave says, it's pretty close to a quote here, but it's really a paraphrase because it came to me secondhand. That's a good woman. She's a keeper. You need to hang on to her. And then he said something along the lines of, I knew I liked her. He's a character. He really is. Um, so I asked Wayne, I said, did you share with Big David all the stuff that I have in our basement? And he said, yeah, he did. He told him about that. Because that's where all my home canned stuff is. Well, that's where all my pantry and stuff is in the basement. I don't have anywhere to put it up here. And I hate basements. I like the idea of a basement, but I hate that basement. I hate climbing the steps every time I need stuff. I hate it going down there to do the laundry. I just hate it. I don't mind having an upstairs for bedrooms, but I'd rather everything else be on one floor downstairs. I just hate the basement. So I tried to give Bob and Betty their pedicures yesterday. When you're not walking dogs regularly on concrete or something and the nails grow, you gotta trim them. Now Betty's the boxer, and she does fight me. We're getting a little better about it. She doesn't try to bite. She just pulls away and tries to wiggle away and stuff. But I'm getting a little better where, I can get the tips trimmed up. And I did buy a little battery, or well, it's a USB rechargeable um, dog nail file thing. It has a little wheel that spins with a grind. It's a little grinder, and it's kind of high pitched. But previously with my other dogs, I used a Dremel with a little sanding pad on it, and I just Dremel the nails down, and they didn't, it didn't really take long to train them, to let me do this. It took several weeks, but I didn't do a whole lot at once. I just touch them and give them a little treat, touch them and give them a little treat. Betty's not coming along that well, so I'm using those awful clippers. I hate those clippers. I'd so much rather grind the nails down. It's so much less traumatic. You don't, you usually you can tell right before you get to the quick because they're pulling away, and you can look at them and you can see, and it just, but anyway, Betty hasn't allowed me to do that yet. I did fool with her a little bit yesterday with the new little one for the specifically for dogs. And I did touch 3 or 4 of her nails before I gave her a treat so that she could see, yeah, it might spook you a little bit, but it's not gonna hurt you. Bob is a different story. Bob gets almost violent. He hasn't bitten me, but he's trying to. I mean, he really doesn't want to bite me, but he's absolutely not gonna let me do his toes, or anyone for that matter. Somebody has hurt his feet, and, in his lifetime, somebody has hurt his feet. They've either took clippers and just snapped, just cut, and I don't know, but you just barely touch him and he just snarls and snaps, and he's telling you, leave me the heck alone. I'm not playing with you. So the veterinarian gave us some sedatives. And the first time I used them, I didn't wait very long. The directions on the prescriptions say to wait 2 hours after you give them. And I did wait 2 hours, but I didn't wait much longer than that, and he just absolutely fought me. Well, then I had something else to do, so I went to do that, and Wayne said that Bob was really dopey after I left and got a lot worse, so we figured I didn't wait long enough. Well, so yesterday I tried again. I gave him the pills. I set the timer on my clock, which I know you can't go exactly by the minute, but I set the timer on my clock. When it went off at 2 hours, I looked at him. He was kind of dopey, so I walked over and I kind of touched his feet. And he was pulling them back and giving me a little growl. So I knew he wasn't ready. So I set the alarm for half an hour. And I kept watching him, and in half an hour I went over and did it again. He was a little more groggy, but he was still able to pull back. And if I even got close to his nail with the clippers, he just come up out of there, just like he wasn't sedated at all. And so I did that half hour like 4 more times. So in all, I went around 6 hours with this guy. Never was able to do them. Never. Once there was one nail that was real thin on the end that I knew I could just snap right off without looking. And he stayed kind of drowsy and asleep, and I slipped the little clipper on that piece of nail, and as soon as I snapped it off, here he came up. And it was, after that, there was no going back. He never passed out. Never passed out. So I've pretty much resolved myself to the fact that I'm going to have to talk to the vet about actually putting him to sleep while he's asleep, clean his teeth, trim his nails, give him the works, and we'll do that every, a couple times a year, I guess. Unless I can get him on a good schedule where we're walking, which that's my fault. And I know that. That's my fault. This time last year, no, this time a year ago, no. I had stopped by this time last year. So the year before that, I had been walking almost every day, and I was walking Betty almost every day, 2 miles a day up to Walmart and back. It's a mile up and a mile back. And then when winter set in, I stopped. And then this year I didn't do it again. And it's my fault. But I need to walk them. And if I'm walking them on the concrete, it's going to keep those nails wore down, and I won't have to worry about it. But I am going to have to pay and have the vet sedate him and just, cut those nails back. I hate it, but I can't. He's not cooperating with me, so I don't know what else to do with him. So let me take just a second to remind you on the podcast that this is the 22nd episode of the Holstein House podcast. It's kind of like a commercial here. Um, we premiered on the Fountain Network. If you found me on the Fountain Network and you feel like I've brought you anything of value so far, I hope you will share that value and boost, clip, find something good to clip, and share it among your friends. If you're listening to me on any of the other podcast platforms that are out there, Google or Amazon or I Apple, I mean, not Apple, Spotify, any of those. I hope you'll share it with your friends and pass the word around that Holstein House podcast is out there talking about some interesting things down in West Virginia. So at this point in the year, we got to really start thinking about what we're going to plant in the spring. It's not that far off, and if you start things indoors, it's even closer. I don't I am so upset because my garden last year, it's been a container garden for a while, and there's been a few years that I had the most awesomest container gardens. I mean, I had green beans all over the place one year. It was crazy the amount of green beans I had. And tomatoes did well. What else? I had some lettuce, kale. One year I had kale almost all year. We left one piece of kale out there just to see how long it would grow. And it went for like a year and a half. It was crazy. And I was harvesting off of it. But so I need to decide what I'm going to plant again. And I need to decide where I'm going to plant because I do want to put a gazebo out. And it may be that the area that I've picked for the container garden is not getting the right amount of sunlight. Direct sunlight, I should say. It does, there's a shadow. It's not a dark shadow, but there's a shadow of the house next door on part of it. So I'm thinking that may be it. I may have to move again the containers to a different spot. Um, there's not going to be too many more options if I put a gazebo out there. I don't know. I don't know. But this is the time when we need to start thinking about that. And if you've never done, or if you've only occasionally done a little bit of a garden or a container garden, think about it now. Tomatoes are always a favorite. The problem with tomatoes here is Wayne doesn't really like them. And it only takes a couple of plants to overwhelm me as far as eating tomatoes. But then it's not enough for canning because you need so many more to can. So again, I know Wayne was laughing. A lot of people were laughing at what I paid at the farm market last year to buy green beans. It was a ridiculously stupid amount. But the fact was, I hadn't grown anything. And we also have to decide too, is it worth the effort? I mean, buying store-bought canned food is not a sin. It's not. You don't have to home can your food to be prepared. And people who home can are not necessarily any better than people who buy store bought. The thing about home canning for me is I know how much salt is in stuff. I know where the food came from that went into those jars. And I also know that if I need to, I can prepare and I can home can food, you know, for us. Doesn't mean I have to. I have store bought canned groceries downstairs too. Uh, but I'm trying to home can more because I just like the idea of doing it myself and knowing what's in it. And I like home canning meats, chicken, beef, pork. I do. I It can go bad if you drop it or if the jar freezes and breaks or if the seal comes off. I mean, the seal on the lid. But it's already cooked. It's shelf stable. You don't have to worry about losing the electric. But you can also you can store buy canned food too. So, you know, it's okay. Whatever works for you. But having fresher food, like if you have a container garden or if you have a home garden, is always better for your health because you can walk out and pick that and eat it the same day, and you're getting 100% of the nutrients it can provide you without losing any in the process or in the cooking. But this is a time to decide. I want to get some kale out again. I've I've mucked around and not gotten those kind of colder weather things out soon enough because you don't want to put kale out in June. You want to put kale out in the cooler weather. But I didn't get that dumb plant dug up before the ground got froze. Um, what's it called? A canny? I think it's called a canny. It's got big old oval shaped flat uh, leaves on it, and it has a big stalk with a big red flower on the top that comes out. And you're supposed to dig them up in the fall. Well, it was too wet to get out there messing around in that yard. And then now it's froze. So I didn't get them up again. And it's just all over. I mean, it just is. There's just way too much of it out there. We got. I don't know. Obviously, for a lot of the United States, we had that big freeze that came through, and we got the white Christmas we've been crying for ages, right? So we've been saying, I want a white Christmas. I want a white Christmas. Well, we got one. We got one this year. Mark it down. December 24, 25, 2022 was a white Christmas in most of the United States. Okay. We got it. We got some sub-zero wind chill too. So I have a couple of videos and audios up of dealing with the trying to take care of the poultry in the minus 15-degree wind chill. It was not fun. That's not what I want to do all the time. And occasionally here and there, all right, I don't want to have to do it all the time. And the birds don't want to have to do it either. But so we get this. I got an email. I actually got an email from the power company asking me not to use electricity unnecessarily so that it can reduce the demand on the grid. Reduce the demand on the grid. Don't charge all the things. There's a big demand on the grid. Now, for those of you on the podcast, I'm also recording this for my YouTube, and the people on YouTube can see the face that I'm making, and it's one of exasperation, aggravation, whatever shun you want to stick in there, because this is ridiculous. You know, there is a big push by a minority of people in our government. And I'm telling you, it's a minority of people in the government, because the people on the ground in the United States, the majority of the people don't want to be forced to use solar for anything. You know, this used to be the land of the free, but all of our legislators, all they do right now is brag about the legislation they've passed. I submit that it is entirely possible that we have more restrictions on us than the people of China. The difference is where the restrictions are. But anyway, we're being asked not to in the coldest snap in a long time in the United States, and key portions of the country are being asked not to use electricity. There are blackouts in some areas, yet we've got billions of dollars to send to other nations, not just nations at war, but other nations generally. What could we do for this country if we cut our the money that we send overseas to any nation by 2%, just 2%, and get out of that mess in the Ukraine? I'm sorry, I try not to get too political on my YouTube because it's not the place for it. But you know, when I look at what's happening and how it affects my household, and it's going to affect everyone else's households as well. The infrastructure, the electrical grid, the water infrastructure, and our highway infrastructure in this country is collapsing. We're almost at third world level in some of this stuff, and you know, we used to be the shining city on the hill, but we haven't kept up, and we're giving everything away, and our house is falling down around us. So I'm absolutely furious that I got that. I mean, you know, if it's legitimate that the electric company was having trouble keeping up, or they were afraid they would, because I know that, well, there's been several uh, plants, electric plants in my area that have shut down in the last 10 years, several that could be up and running producing. And you know why they shut them down? Because they're coal fired plants. Coal fired plants. We're willing to freeze our people to death. It's okay for these other countries to destroy themselves with lithium mines so that we can batteries to create mix for our solar to store the electric from the solar. We can kill people in other countries. You know, in the United States, when we strip mine for coal or we strip mine for any mineral, just strip mine, we have laws already established that says they have to reclaim those sites and bring them back to as close to previous condition as possible. They have to plant grasses, they have to plant trees, they have to plant wildflowers. They have to put this thing back in as close as possible condition. It has to be clean. Now, years ago, back in the 50s and 60s, they didn't have that. So yeah, there's still some abandoned mines that there's some nasty drainage coming out of, you know, but in today's world, it doesn't happen that way. And the strip mines in the United States usually end up in better condition environmentally than I guarantee you the lithium mines in these third world nations are going to be. And then you want to preach to me about um, environmental responsibility? No, no. I'm sorry. I shouldn't go off on that on my YouTube. That's not the point of my YouTube, but that's just where we're at. Don't use electricity in the United States of America? Really? I'm already using LEDs in just about everything I've got. Are you telling me that I'm pulling that much off the grid? No, and I get it. No, it's the whole of the thing. It's not just each individual house. It's all of the houses dragging on. I get it. I get it. But this is ridiculous. And I know without a doubt there's no legitimate politician watching or listening to this. But I'm telling you, the next time I see one, and I will write because I don't believe in just ranting off on social media. I'm going to write, and it's not just going to be an email that gets lost out there in a server somewhere and never seen. I'm going to send a letter. I'm going to write a letter. Baby just wrote me a letter. I'm going to write a letter and I'm going to send it to the local office of my congressional representatives, my senators, and my House representatives. Might send one to the White House, but probably not because then I would never be heard from again. The FBI would be on me. They'd be looking at my laptop. I'll send a handwritten letter. I encourage you to send handwritten letters. Don't waste your time on email. You'll get some electronic response. The person will never actually see it. And if you were to talk to them face to face, they wouldn't know you. Send a written letter. It might, if you send it to DC, it's going to go through one of those machines where they make sure that you didn't send some contaminant in the envelope. Send it to the local office. You can call too. That's always good, but call the local office. If you overwhelm the local offices, they'll have to pay attention, or at least a little bit more. All right. Let me get off that because I love to debate politics. I don't like this particular subject because it's stupid. But anyway, I don't want my YouTube or my podcast to become a angry white person politically based program. I can do that somewhere else. End of years, I've got my business, Robin Holstein or robinholstein.com, but Robin's Desktop. That's what I do my notary and my consulting, my administrative consulting stuff out of. It's the one that I'm really gonna be winding down. I'm not gonna do much more than the notary work anymore on it. And but I've just it's one of those things. I've had it for so long. I can't hardly let go of it. I've still got taxes to do for it because I did make money through it last year. It wasn't a whole lot, but I've got to do my tax stuff. Got to do in the tax stuff for the house. Try to get that. I was late last year. We filed an extension because I couldn't get my act together. Plus, our bank changed systems. I love how they use that. Banks and doctors and everybody change their systems, and so things aren't right. They changed systems, and I didn't have access to some of my electronic statements, and I had to go in and had to get them to send them, and then they didn't send them, and I had to go back, and it just was awful. I mean, they're good people. Well, it's actually a credit union. I like them overall. It was just a snarl, ran into a snarl there, but I've got to get all my end of the year taxes taken care of this week. This week. Bitcoin it's looked like it's going back up a little bit. I haven't bought any more. I haven't invested any more in it yet. I will be doing that. I was looking up a little bit of stuff. I know they're prosecuting those people. I saw a couple other coins that were starting to move that are still down in the double digits for purchase. I think the phrase they use for that is SH coin. SHT coin. Um, but the people who prefer Bitcoin over everything else. So I don't know. I might play with those a little bit. It's not that much to get in. I mean, $15 for one, and it's something I can get in and buy a handful of them and just see what happens. I mean, I think I said it before. I'm not going to put anything more into these things than I would say going to the movies. Because I mean, if I've got money to go to the movies, yeah, I get some entertainment out of that, but I don't have any money at the end of it. Well, if I put a little bit of money in Bitcoin and some of the uh, other ones, then it's not going to be any more than I would waste going to the movies. I'm not putting hundreds of or thousands of dollars in any of them at this point. I may regret that down the road. I mean, the one I saw this morning when I was checking was $11.99, I think, each for each coin, and um, I'm not gonna buy thousands of them. That's not my end game at this point. I'm still learning it. So, and then speaking of learning, and this is just about to wrap it up. Like I had nothing else to do. I'm going to start. Well, I've already started listening to a short course on the technician class ham radio license. I'm going to try to get my ham radio license. I really want to get the general license. You have to get the technician first, but I think you can take all the tests at the same time. And I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to be able. I don't necessarily. Here's in the nutshell. Here's what's going to happen as far as I am concerned. I'm not going to bug out unless it's to his place in Lincoln County, which is just a few miles from here. It's not like it's not like buying property in Tennessee. I'll bug in if something major happens. I'll be here where all my stuff is, where all my medicine is, where my house, my cat, my dog, my chickens. It'll be here. I'll stay here. Um, but I want to be able to survive here. If something really bad happens, we had a derecho go through a few years ago, and I've shared this before. And certain areas around me were without electricity for 2 weeks. I want to be able to go a couple months if I have to. Now, I don't know what I do about the winter because the winter, trying to go a couple months in the winter, if we use this winter as an example, and it's only a week old, uh, that's going to take some creativity. I have easy access to the river, as do a million other people. But what would end up happening is that river would become contaminated with sewage at a level that we haven't seen in decades. Because as the public sewage system fail, people would be going maybe reopening old septic tanks or putting in new septic systems or just walking out back to the creek with a bucket and dumping it in the creek. So you got to have a way to sanitize that water. Um, and I mean, I've got rain barrels, but in the winter they're frozen. I mean, I can go out there right now and they may not be frozen in the very middle, but anything you put down in there to try to get that would then freeze the middle. So that water's frozen. I can't get it out of the barrels. So I'd have to think through those things. But the thing is I'll be here and I want to be able to hear and talk to other people. If the internet's down, well, I can't do that. If the cell towers are down, well, I can't do that. We don't use the old fashioned telephones anymore, so you're not going to be calling anybody. And it just I'm going to be here. And how do I get through, a couple months or so here? So that's the long term. But I want to get and okay, able versus allowed. I get that too. I know. But I want to be able to practice while I'm allowed so that when I'm able, I'll be able to. So I have one of those little bell things, or however you pronounce it. Let me get it. I had it out here looking at it the other day again while I was. It's just that, and UV5R. I can turn it on, and that's all I can do. I had the book. I looked at the book. I can't tell you how to do anything, but I want to learn how to use this, and I want to be able to put up a little antenna that can get me out of this just immediate area and get me out a little further out so I have an idea of what's going on. And I also want to get here I go. I also want to get a CB radio. Now my mom was big in CBs in the 70s, and she had a big old thing on the kitchen table, and her microphone and stuff had the gigantic antenna out back my dad put up for her, and she had them in the car and the van. We used to have a van, and she had her license to do that. I even remember her call letters, but so she had all of that, and you can use that too, without as much, involvement. But I think CB radios are now kind of like um, OnlyFans is on the internet. It's just, from what I understand, it's a lot of filth now, which there were certain channels where it was anyway. But, I'd like to be able, because I want to be able to contact people and know what's going on around me when things come apart. I still have a television antenna to pick up over the air television. So I need to be able to know what's going on. But I'm going to be here. I'll be staying here. Let's see. And that's really that's it. Don't forget that I have Holstein House on Airbnb and Direct Book. We do provide a B&B, for guests. We have a room that we let for that. And I do fix a breakfast for my guests. That's it, just breakfast. And we want to invite you to let 2023 be a year that you stay here. If you find yourself traveling through or to West Virginia along the West Virginia Turnpike, Interstate 6477, going to have a couple. Well, they're actually already up, I think. A couple specials for January and February, and we'll be and there for our direct book guests. I've said before, anything that I promote on Airbnb wants their percentage of. So I don't do that. And it actually costs you more to stay using Airbnb than it would be to direct book, because I want you to direct book. Direct booking saves you and me money. Saves us both money because we're not having to pay Airbnb. But anyway, so let 2023 be the year you choose to stay as you travel through our area. Go to robinholstein.com and choose Holstein House from the menu, and look at the offers and things that are there, and check the dates that you think that you'll be wanting to stay, see if they're available. And if you book, you'll see the specials. Right now, we've got the chocolate and coffee stay. If you choose it, it's good for from now till the end of March. It's not available through Airbnb. And what I do is I've got Hall's chocolates that will be in your room. Not a whole lot, just a few because they're kind of expensive, but there'll be a few there for you. And Coal River Coffee, which is a local coffee company. I have beans. I will freshly grind those for you if you like. And I now have the ability to make a macchiato, which is kind of like a cappuccino, but I don't steam the milk. I froth the milk. I'm not very good at it yet, but it's free for guests for a little while I'm learning. You just kind of have to let me know ahead of time so that I can have that ready and make it for you. I hope you can enjoy the rest of your Christmas season and the new year. Please don't drink and drive. I had a cousin who he really did. He died from that. Of course, West Virginia, we have a lot of back roads, and he was drinking and driving home in the back roads, and a lot of them are, very curvy because of the mountains, and he smacked in the back end of one of those Ashplum trucks, the things that where they go and they, it's a company that cuts down trees, and he smashed into the back of one of those and killed himself. Drinking and driving. So please don't do that. It's not macho. It's not sexy. It's gross, and you could kill people or yourself. And so please don't do that. Save a little money back, and get yourself an Uber or a taxi, depending on where you are. Have a friend designated. Make sure that they keep to their word and they don't drink. But please don't drink and drive. So that'll be it. I'll wrap that up for episode 22 of the Holstein House podcast. Twice now, maybe more, but I can't tell with my app. In the top 50 on the Fountain FM network hot list. I love you guys for helping me get there. And, that may be the only 2 times I ever do it, but I've done it. So yay me. It's same all the great. It's great all the same all the great. My goodness. So if I don't have a list of those who have boosted for the previous episode, I'll try to have that for the next posting. And I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. And if I don't talk to you again, a very happy New Year. Okay, for those of you watching the video, I was just finishing up the podcast there. That's why I had that little minute or two or a few seconds of silence so that I will know where to cut the recording. I'm looking kind of rough this morning. I apologize for that. I know you can see my little surgery scar thing there, and my hair is all a mess. But I appreciate you hanging out this long with me. And if at some point you have questions, just put them down in the comments. Put like the word replay, and then give me your question, and I'll try to answer it the next time. Don't have anybody lined up for the next live. I'm going to try to get some videos done this week. I might try to do one. Of course, I can't make those macchiatos very good, but I might do a video showing you how horrible I am at them right now. It really doesn't take that long, but my pot is really tiny, so I can only get. Well, it depends. I'm trying to get a hold of some pre-owned cappuccino cups, so it might be that my little pot makes 2 cups based on a proper sized cup. All I've got is regular coffee cups or coffee mugs, or teacups. Maybe teacups, but they're not really. I don't know. I'd have to try it and see. I may do that. I don't know. I could do some videos on sourdough. I'd have to piece those together though. I could show you how to get some sourdough started, but it does take a while. I already have a bunch of sourdough. So if anybody local is, I mean, local to my area in Kanawha County, West Virginia, wants to buy some, I'll say some cheap. I don't know what it goes for out there in the wild, but um, I'll sell you some starter. I've got just way too much starter because when I just discard to another container instead. I don't throw it away, and I don't get it all used up because it doesn't take that much. It only takes like 3 or 4 ounces to do anything, and I've got a couple pounds. So honestly, I've got a lot out there. Um, but that's local. I don't have any way of shipping that out anywhere, and I'm not interested in dehydrating it really. I could do dehydrate it, but the last time I tried that, it didn't go well, and I got gnats in the house, and I didn't enjoy that a bit. Oh, I know what I want to do. Oh, I don't have it sitting here. Oh shoot, it's over there across the room. I think I did a a recipe book back last fall with 7 days worth of food that you can make out of soup. That's like you could feed a family of four for less than $10 a day. Um, I might go through. What would you like to see me actually make those? Um, I mean, they're really simple. I could do that. I could do that. Mm. I've shown pictures of them. I've posted pictures when I was talking about making the recipe book, and the recipe book's available on Etsy. It's probably the only thing I've got on Etsy. I used to have a few things on Etsy, and then I just don't sell well. I'm not a salesperson. Oh, I don't know what else. What else do you want to learn to do that I might be able to show you how? Or what else do you want to see me mess up? I mess up all kinds of stuff. I really do. I I tried to make there's a cake that a friend of mine asked me to make one time. It's called a Neapolitan cake, and you take a white cake mix and you use Nestle's Quick Chocolate and Nestle's Quick Strawberry, and you divide the cake mix and you mix the stuff. Every stinking time, every time I have made this, the strawberry and the vanilla have blended in, even though I'm very gently adding, like I can put chocolate on the bottom because you do it in a bundt cake pan. I can put chocolate on the bottom and very easily spoon the white mix in the middle, easily spoon the strawberry mix on the top, and it's still they just I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I made it again. It's like the third or fourth time I've made it, and it didn't come out right. I mean, it tastes great. You can taste the strawberry, you can taste the chocolate, but they just, I don't know. I thought it was the wrong type of pan. I thought my bundt pan was too thin, but you know, I had a heavy one. My son bought me a really nice one. Um, oh, what was the name of that place he bought it from? I forget, but it's pretty expensive. And last year for Christmas, and I made it again this year, and nope, it now I've got an apple cake that I make that just turns out great almost every time I make it. Dum 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 dum. I just don't know. Tell me what you would like to see me do. I can show. I can do sourdough bread, and I can do the starter separate, and I can do breads, crackers. I don't know. And I got a couple cookbooks, but I mean, do you really want to see somebody cook stuff? Really? I need to get back to talking about the Airbnb. That was really the point of creating this, was to talk more about if you want to have your own, if you want to host people in your home, here's how you can do it. I haven't done that at all, have I? I haven't done it at all. But anyway, I got to get ready. I got to get out of here. The sun's up enough. I got to go get the birds out and get them fed and watered. They'll need some liquid water. They've been in the coop all since dark. So I have to go with that. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you hanging out this long. It's been a little over an hour and 15 minutes on the video. So I have to get tending to the flock. I've got the dogs fed, the cats fed. I got to take care of the poultry. Then I got to get to tidying up the house and getting some stuff out for supper, and um, and then I'll work on getting this trimmed up and posted and everything. And I got to work on that. I'm thinking, oh, what was it? I hit Tuesdays Tuesday tea at 10, something like that. But anyway, thank you again. Thank you again for being here. Please share it, spread the word about it, and let's interact a little more. And let's get some stuff going for 2023. Thanks again. Take care of yourself. Happy New Year if I don't see you before then, and and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye bye.